Hey guys, this is Mitch with Fine Point CGI, and today we're going to talk about what a game design document is and why you might want to use one. So a game design document is basically the Bible of your game. It is a document that kind of serves as the blueprint and the foundation of your game. So it's really important that you sit down and you build one out. Now, I know that, when you have this new idea, you want to just jump right in and you just want to build it and you want to just start prototyping out the game. But taking a step back and spending a little bit of time setting this up and thinking about your concept, thinking about your target audience, things like that can really help shape your idea and help you formulate a more perfect picture of what you want. Now, I know that it seems like it's a waste of time, but in my experience, having a design document is important to keep your team on schedule and to keep you on schedule. It always saves time in the future. One of the things that I was always told when I was a junior developer was having a design document is like having Google Maps. It tells you how to get from A to B, and it gives you kind of a path on how to get there. Whereas if you were to just start designing right beforehand, you start going down your trip. So let's say you're trying to go, to Kentucky, right, which is another state in the United States. You jump on the highway, you start heading down. Oh, the highway's blocked because of some traffic. So we're going to go off the exit. We're going to drive down. Some roads are closed. So we hit some bumps and bruises along the way. And then we kind of double back because this road's closed or that road's closed. Whereas if we were to have had a nice, well-defined design document beforehand, all of these bumps and bruises that we would have had could have been avoided. And that's what we're trying to achieve with this document. So now that you guys kind of have an idea of what a game design document is, let's take a look at this game design document template I have put together for you guys. So first we have your project name and your author, and then I have a table of contents that already updates itself as you write out your game design document. Now, if you guys scroll down a little bit further, and the link to this is in the description below, by the way, you guys are welcome to use it. First, you want to put a summary of something, a one sentence. What are you trying to build? And it needs to be a single sentence. If you can't fit your game idea in a single sentence, generally speaking, it's not a good game, or it's not something that can be explained easily. So therefore, it might be too complex to take on. I put an example here, a 2D platform with time traveling elements that has a branching storyline. And the idea is just to give you that one, this is what I want out of the game. Now you have a detailed summary. Now this is where you can get as detailed as you want, but basically you just give a gist of what your idea is. A 2D platformer about a man whose father was murdered and he was framed for it. He gets the power of time travel through a deal with the devil, and then you just kind of start building it out, right? Now, after your detailed summary, then you have your pillars of design. And your pillar of design, or your pillars of design, is important. It's basically the elements of your game that you want. It's a fast, action-packed time travel card game. And that can give you a really, really interesting idea because you can mix and match different ideas, and you might be able to pull some more information out of your game just by throwing some nice pillars of design. And also, when you go back and you look at your current game product and you look at your pillars of design, if they don't match up, then your original idea was completely missed, right? So it's really useful to have that short, concise spell check almost for your game. Next is the story. You want to see, first we'll start with the setting. So where is this set it? So in my case, this game set it in present day. What are some of the main story beats? Player gets framed for murder, much cast to framers. He hunts after the man by fighting his subordinates, finally fights the man and chooses to spare him. After his journey, he has gained peace. What kind of world is this game based in? In my case, I have present day New York with a sci-fi twist, and you can put some concept art in here, some things that like for instance, different pixel art or different concept art, things like that. Are there any characters in your game? If so, what's their name? What's their age, personality? Where do they come from? What do they look like? What do they enjoy? Are they gamblers? Are they alcoholics? A lot of these things are super useful because you can sit down and be like, I have a character that's, a minor character, but if you fill this out, that minor character will become a very fleshed out character that makes them actually enjoyable to have in your game. They're not just somebody who you're going to throw away. Next is the gameplay structure. So gameplay structure is, what is your requirements, right? What are you trying to build in terms of a gameplay design? First we'll check out the gameplay loop. What is your character doing and why do the player care? Why does the player care? For example, action adventure game with time travel. The player can stop time in areas to try to solve problems and to fight enemies, right? And you might want to put some other basic gameplay loop. They can pick up items. They can, grow plants, right? They can, rip the head off of monsters, or maybe they can go into other worlds, right? Next up is controls. How will your game be controlled? Is it a touch game? Is it a controller game? Is it a mouse and keyboard? Do they drive a car? Is there different controls? So for instance, if they drive a car, are the controls in a car and the controls in a helicopter the same? How are their controller mappings going to be set up? Things like that. Just stuff that you guys can kind of think about. Next up is the enemies or monsters. And are there any enemies? And if so, what are their stats? How do they fight? Are they part of any kind of faction? Do they have a name? Do they have any concept art? Things like that. Next up on the list is gameplay mechanics. And the thing about gameplay mechanics is it's all about how your stuff works in detail. So up here in your gameplay loop and your controls is more of just generalized, here's what I want to accomplish. And down here is the nitty gritty. How do you want your stuff to operate? And use Draw.io to create flowcharts. I think it's called diagrams.io now or something like that. But regardless, use Draw.io to create your flowcharts. And a flowchart, as you can see here, makes things a lot easier. The player presses, an input. Is the input time reverse? Yes or no? If so, then it's going to broadcast a signal to reverse one step. Everyone's going to load their last position of all players and enemies, and it's going to apply that move and slide to those characters. See, that's how a reversing time would work if I were to do a reverse time system, right? Now, obviously, this is a really overly simplified flowchart, but in a lot of the projects that I've worked on, this is basically what we need, is just a basic idea of what we're trying to accomplish. Next up is art and sound. What kind of graphics are you going to have? Is it a pixel art game? You should probably throw a mood board in here. You should probably throw some kind of inspiration, okay? Most of the time, this is where you would throw some basic, feel concept art. So maybe the art style could be Fortnite mixed with pixel art mixed with Animal Crossing, maybe, right? So you could have different pictures of Fortnite, Animal Crossing, and some pixel art, maybe of a feel that you're trying to go for. Next up is sound. What kind of sound do you want? Are you like a chip tunes or opera music or maybe heavy metal or something like that? And I would put links in here so that way if you were to bring on a sound designer, you could just throw them this document and say, hey, here you go. Check out these sounds. This is what I'd like. And then they have something they can go off of. So the next big section is level overview. So what kind of levels are going to be in your game? You should probably put some level maps, concept art, things like that here, right? And you could also talk about each level if you'd like. And are there any puzzles? If there are, you should concept them out right here. Next up is UI, and UI is the concept of any menu designs in your game. Now, the reason why this is important is because you need to have some kind of concept art of your UI, because a lot of times people design on the fly and then their UI feels disjointed. They have different font sizes, they have different font, they have different, one panel looks completely different than another panel. And I'm guilty of that one too, because I'm very bad at UIs, that's for sure. So it's really useful to have your concept art and your menu designs right here. What kind of development tools are you using? And the reason why this is important, and I know you might think, well, I'm just going to use Godot or Blender or Krita, right? Well, it's very important to think about what kind of programs you're going to need, because if it costs money, you need to understand the cost of your game. If your game is going to take a year to make and you're using Autodesk Maya and you're using the professional edition and you have 5 artists, that's $20,000. So it's important for you to know what programs you're using. And next we have team. So what kind of team do you have? Is it just you? Is there multiple people? It's always good to call out your team and maybe their contact information or something like that in here. So that way, if you have a team of people and you start working with a team of people, they have all of the information they need right here in the game design document. Next up is the schedule and Gantt chart. Now this is important, okay? You have your first milestone here, and you should basically duplicate this multiple times. So milestone 2, milestone 3, and when it's due, what tasks do you want accomplished? What do you want to do during those milestones? And also you should build out a Gantt chart. A lot of times people don't build these out, but they're really useful. You basically just put in your tasks here, and then you basically just write out your Gantt chart here. You determine how long it's going to take. So if I'm going to be building a character controller, is it going to take a week? Is it going to take 2 weeks, 3 weeks? And this is really important. I'm going to have an actual full tutorial on scheduling your games in a future game design tutorial, because this is something that can't be understated. You need to make sure you have good scheduling for your games. And we are almost done. Market analysis. This is important as well. Market analysis is the target demographic of your game, and it's not you. If your response to this is, well, it's me, then you're not making a game for other people, you're making a game for yourself. And that's not necessarily bad, but you should look at what kind of audience you want to play this game. So for instance, this specific game is going to target PlayStation 5, and we want it to have a wide reception of audiences. So the players generally will be 13 to 25 because of the gore of our game. We feel it's going to attract a younger audience. That gives us a lot of information. We know that we're going to be targeting 13 to 25-year-olds. 25-year-olds, 13-year-olds really love swearing. They love gore. They love, nudity, things like that. So your game, it can give you a lot of really good ideas of what kind of game you want to make, what you want to include into your game. If this game is for children, then you wouldn't want to have a bunch of gore and a bunch of things like that, right? Next up is top performers. Who else in this genre is popular? So for instance, in this specific game, it would be something like Brave, or maybe something like Control, or Quantum Break. And then once you figure out who else is very popular, look at what they have. How do you compare against them? How are you different? If your game isn't any different than somebody else's game, why do people want to play it? And it could just be, I'm just going to make a better game. And that's possible. But at least do the research, look at what other people are doing. The next one is risk assessment plan. You don't have to do this one, but it is useful. You can see what kind of risk your game has. What kind of problems could you have during development? What kind of issues might you run into? It's very useful to have that because if something blows up, you at least put down that it's a high risk or a medium risk and how you're going to solve it. And I know that this part's really boring, but it is useful. And believe me when I say I'm awful at doing the risk assessment plan. Usually I ask somebody else to do it because I'm bad at understanding, risk. But in general, the risk assessment plan is useful. And the last thing is your addendums. Any extra stuff, how we're going to communicate, any file backup plans, what kind of, get system are we going to use, any HR plans, any marketing plans, things like that can all just get dumped down into your addendum if you want to do that. So that's pretty much the entirety of this game design document. And it is large, and I'm not going to lie to you guys that it is big. But the beauty of having a nice detailed game design document is that if you fill this out, you will know what your game is about. You will know everything about how to get to your end goal. You will have a schedule, and you will have a target audience and a place you want to go. And if you ever want to get funded, you can give somebody this game design document and they will be impressed that you made a game design document and that you went through the process. And they're going to ask a lot of these questions when you propose your game to them. So it's good to have one regardless. So what do you guys think? Do you think a game design document's useful? I personally like game design documents. This one is a bit more detailed than maybe necessary, but I do like having a detailed game design document. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below, because I'm really interested in if you guys actually do any game design documents or if you really even care about them. But that is all I have for you guys today. So if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. Hey, if you dislike this video, go ahead and hit that dislike button because I am here to make content for you guys. This video was not a viewer suggested video, but it was a video I felt that needed to be made so that people could see why game design documents are important and how to make them. But if you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments below and I'll be more than happy to put them on my Trello board. But that is all I have for you guys today. So thank you so much again for watching, and I will see you all next time. Thanks.